Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 64 of the HooperCast. This is actually episode 64, part 1. This episode was such a monster that we had to cut it into 2 parts, but I'm going to release them at the same time. So don't worry about waiting for part 2, because it's coming, baby. Oh, it's coming. This is the episode where we talk about our favorite movies of 2014. And I, for one, include movies I didn't see this year. And then we've got a worst, or our most disappointing of 2014 coming up, and also a most anticipated of 2015. So everyone just enjoy it, enjoy the list, and maybe leave some comments, and compare it to your own. But enjoy the episode. Thanks. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the HooperCast. I'm Mr. Hooper. I am joined today by Dustin and John. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hi.
And my baby just woke up, so I guess we're joined by Baby Hooper. Hello.
Hello, Hooper baby.
Hi.
So today we are talking our top 10 of 2014. And then we'll talk some other stuff in a later episode. So, anyway, today, guys, we've each got 10, roughly. Or you guys have 10. I've got like 9.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have 10.
Okay.
All right. Anyway,
All right.
So, I guess we just one by one name your top 10, and then we'll can talk about them each, I guess. Because I don't think people want to sit here and listen to us list them one by one for however long. So,
Sure. Well, John, do you want to start us off?
Sure. So my number 10 was Birdman.
aha.
My number 9 was Mr. Peabody and Sherman.
Mhm.
My number 8 was The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Mhm.
My number 7 was Transformers: Age of Extinction. Number 6 was Dragon Ball Z: Battle of Gods. Number 5 was Gone Girl. Number 4 was Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Number 3 was Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Number 2 was Mockingjay Part 1. And number 1 was Interstellar for me.
Awesome.
All right. Dustin, why don't I go first? Because I think your list is going to be better than mine in terms of content.
Okay.
All right. My number 10 is X-Men Days of Future Past. 11.
These go to 11.
These go to 11. Number 9 is Transcendence. Number 8 is John Wick. Number 7 is Lone Survivor. Number 6 is The Purge: Anarchy. Number 5 is Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 4 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Number 3 is Edge of Tomorrow. Number 2 is the Lego Movie, and number 1 is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Okay. Well, so here's the deal. Some of our numbers actually line up, which is awesome.
Oh.
So my number 10 is Birdman.
Woohoo!
My number 9 is Edge of Tomorrow. Number 8 is Captain America: Winter Soldier. Number 7 is Big Hero 6. Number 6 is The Hobbit: The Battle of Five Armies. Number 5 is Whiplash. Number 4 is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Number 3 is 22 Jump Street. Number 2 is the Lego Movie. And number 1 is Lone Survivor.
Let me point out real quick, because I always do this to cover my ass every year. I want to mention things that I did not see that probably would have impacted my list dramatically. At least I think. I saw the end of How to Train Your Dragon 2, but that doesn't count as a full viewing, so I had to keep it off my rankings. I never saw Foxcatcher. Birdman ended up on both y'all's lists. I'm kind of sad I didn't see that. I just never got a chance to. I really wanted to see Nightcrawler, The Imitation Game, Gone Girl, Interstellar, Big Hero 6, and Mockingjay and Exodus and The Hobbit. But Alas, I never made it to the theaters. So to anyone listening who's wondering why my list is comic book and action heavy, it's really just because you can ask anybody. I tried really hard over the past week to see as many 2014 movies as I could. But I have a baby, so I can't go to the theater as much, and I tried the best I could. So just remind yourselves of that when you're wondering why Captain America is my number one.
It's not to be ashamed of.
No, I'm not ashamed at all.
No, it's
Don't
not.
confuse it for shame. It's just
Good.
more of a, I know some hoity-toities and,
Sure.
you know, whatever.
Well, and see that's what aggravates me about these lists is everybody gets all defensive and whatnot when you don't have enough indie films or dramas or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like a lot of the point of movies is escapism and just to go and have a good time and see some spectacle. So of course Captain America ranks up there for me because, you know, I mean, yeah, Birdman was good, but and The Imitation Game was good. But Captain America is one I can rewatch over and over, and it's one that I have fun. And maybe it doesn't challenge me as much, but, you know, that's okay because, you know, there's a place for film like that too. And
Right.
so, yeah. So I look at this as my favorite of 2014, not the best of 2014, because nobody can
Same.
say what the best of 2014
That's
is.
true.
Anyway.
That's true. That's a good point, Dustin.
Well, thank you.
So which one do you guys want to talk about first that ended up on the majority of the lists?
We can
Not
talk
that
about Captain America.
Captain America? Okay, let's talk about
We can talk about that.
Let's talk about Captain America. All right, so Captain America. Yeah, Dustin and I did talk about this at length. I guess the reason it ended up as my number one. Oh my God, she wasn't a fan of the movie. The reason it ended up as my number one is simply, I guess, expectation versus result for me. Like I expected a good bit out of it, but I did not expect it to be as good as it was. It's not even, you don't even think of a Marvel movie most of the time. You're thinking of this, you know, political thriller, this action film, it just flows so well and everything fit together so well and the action was so well choreographed. Like I was thinking about it. I was watching The Raid too. And I remember the correlation, like the reason I responded so well to the action in Winter Soldier is because it reminded me of The Raid. Like how how mercilessly these people go after each other, how quick these moves are, just how well choreographed they are, how believable it is, I guess. Like it doesn't seem choreographed. It seems like two trained people trying to hurt each other. And I don't know. I was a big fan of that in a Captain America movie, especially when he's kind of comes off like this golden boy, you know, this Boy Scout. It's cool to watch him just beat the shit out of people, you know, and you know, be in real danger and respond to real danger.
Yeah, totally.
Which is a complete, you know, I felt like it was a complete different feeling than the first Avenger, where it's more of like a not campy, but you know, just a lot more of like a shining light kind of symbol that he is. He's more of like he's a soldier here.
Right,
So,
right, true.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I really responded to the realism I felt, and I know that this movie involves helicarriers and other shit, but I'm still going to use the word realism because it was fun to watch this event unfold.
Sure.
So that's
Sure.
why I liked it.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with it too.
And I think of all the movies on my list, the reason it's my number one is just I feel it is the most rewatchable and the most entertaining of all the ones I saw this year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think I watched it 3 times this year, and I'll watch it more, I'm sure. I mean, it's definitely rewatchable, and for me, I think it's the best of all the Marvel movies so far.
I agree with that.
If only because it seems to have something worth saying. And while The Avengers is fun spectacle, this is fun spectacle that also has a point of view and something kind of deeper to say about its characters. And so for that reason, I feel like it's the best that Marvel has done so far. And I look forward to Civil War because I feel like it's going to be more of the same.
I just like I also John, I'm gonna shut up in a second, but I think you're right about the something
Shut
to
up.
say too. It's you know, just having something to say about what's going on with us today in terms of either government surveillance or the way we fight our enemies, or you know, and especially
I couldn't agree more.
Through the eyes of someone who is who's in World War II. It's really it's a unique character through which to tell a story. It's not one of us. It's it's one of our grandfathers essentially. Like if he were alive and fit and strong and whatever, what would he think of?
Who says mine isn't?
Oh, mine's alive too. I'm just saying.
Well,
I'm just joking. Mine's not.
Oh,
He wasn't Captain America either.
No, mine was.
But that's okay. He was cool in his own right. He was cooler.
Yeah, mine
Anyway.
was the Winter Soldier.
Oh.
I had to pull a lot of strings
God.
to get citizenship, you guys. All
Hooper
right.
Buchanan.
Hooper Buchanan.
But yeah, I liked that this movie had something to say. It was a little bit smarter than some of the other Marvel movies. Yeah, I liked it. I thought it had a tight story, and yeah, it was a well produced kind of popcorn movie, but it was engaging at the same time.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right.
That's
Well,
my 2 cents on that one.
what's up next?
Birdman.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think pretty much everything else is just on maybe 2 of our lists rather
Okay.
than all 3.
Okay.
So
Or
John and
one.
I actually saw Birdman together.
Yes.
And when he was
We
in
shared a
town-
drink. We shared some popcorn. It was an amazing experience.
We did not do that. None
We
of
did.
that other than the movie sharing was done.
We held hands. Yeah, I did the classic yawn and put my arm around Dustin.
I don't recall any of that.
I thought it was enchanting.
I don't remember it that way.
It's because he gave you
But-
roofies.
I
Oh
was
my
going to make
God.
a really bad joke, Dustin. Yeah, I was just about to say Bill
Well,
Cosby.
oh no! Why'd you go there?
You can edit that part out.
There was a really funny guy behind us during Birdman who reacted
There was.
very strongly to everything.
I think he didn't expect it to be a movie like that.
I don't know what he was expecting. Maybe he was expecting a Marvel movie, but
I think he was
What he-
expecting a real-life adaptation of Harvey Birdman, Attorney-at-Law, and he was disappointed.
that would be
with that.
amazing. And
Yes.
why that isn't already a thing. We need to do that. Why is
I
that
agree.
not already a thing? Get John Goodman back to play Fred Flintstone.
We need
It's
to pitch
perfect.
it. It's going to be incredible.
But yeah, no, Birdman was good. I think it's a very interesting view because it's all designed to be to feel like it's all one take.
Right.
It's very interesting how they pulled that off. And if you're looking for the seams, you can see them. But if you kind of just sit back and enjoy it for what it is, you're not going to notice any of the cuts. And also, it features some really good performances, a role that's sort of built for Michael Keaton and Edward Norton, too, for that matter.
Yeah.
And, it's really fun. The movie's about an out-of-work actor who's now putting on a stage play. And so to watch Michael Keaton go from stage acting to film acting, in one single take is really, really an interesting kind of thing to think about. How he's projecting and doing, stage acting is much bigger than film acting. And he switches between the two very easily. And I think that's, a really cool thing to watch. And it's just a really well-made film.
Yeah,
What
I
do you
agree.
think, John?
Well, to get back to your point about the one take aspect of it, I thought that was going to be gimmicky at first,
Yeah.
but it never comes off that way, and
No, it doesn't.
it seamlessly aids the story and the way it moves along, so it never felt gimmicky or anything like that to me.
Right. Right.
And yeah, like you said, Edward Norton and Michael Keaton are great in it, and the rest of the cast is good, but they're the really two standouts, I guess. But
Sure.
yeah, I thought it was tailor made for Michael Keaton, and I thought it was an interesting take on, the state of movies. It had something to say again about kind of popcorn movies and all that sort of stuff, and someone trying to kind of break away from that and do something a little bit more serious. But yeah, I liked it. I thought it was great. I thought there were parts where it dragged a little bit, but that kept it from getting higher.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it wasn't focused in places a little bit. There were places where didn't seem very focused, but I thought it was good. The performances really kind of bolstered it up for me. So
Sure.
yeah,
I agree with that. I feel
liked
like
it.
the second act dragged a little bit, but it's not unwatchable. I mean that
No,
part's not
no.
it's not uninteresting. It's just
No.
you could probably be a little more economical here and there.
Yes.
But yeah, I thought it was a very good film and something definitely worth seeing. if only just for the technical successes of the film. But
Yeah.
yeah. And like you said, it does have something to say. And for those of you who don't know, it's Michael Keaton plays an actor. Like I said, he's out of work, but he's best known for playing, a superhero character. So he's very cynical about superhero cinema these days, and it, names the Marvel movies and Robert Downey Jr. and specifically to kind of cast a negative light on all of that kind of business. And so, yeah, it definitely has something to say, and it's worth a watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was really sad I didn't get to see it. I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's a very well-made movie.
Yes.
The craft is there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, what do you guys want to talk about next? You know what? I'm going to answer my own question, as I often do on this show. I would like to talk about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes next.
Okay.
Because we
Hated
all
that
three
movie.
listed this on our top 10, despite John hating it.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
we
horrible.
did 3 lists that. Yeah.
Which
I think I had it the highest, though.
did you? What number did you have it?
I had it at 3.
3?
I have it at 4.
I have it at 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so we all liked this about the same.
Yeah.
I mean, relatively.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
Well, shit, who wants to talk about it first? John, I guess.
I will.
John.
She agrees.
She agrees. She likes it.
Let him speak. That's what she was saying. No, I thought this movie was it was one of those kind of blockbuster type movies that had a lot of big effects scenes and all that, a lot of CG, but it was like it didn't feel like a big film at the same time. It was a very intimate film.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you have like some really great performances, especially Andy Serkis. And this was a very serious movie and ambitious in what it was trying to say about war and all that sort of stuff. So it had these grand overtones, but the film felt really intimate, and it didn't feel like a big effects film, even though it was. And for that reason, I really liked it. It had a more serious tone than the first one.
Your mama sure does care about your schooling.
Oh, no.
Oh my God!
Sorry.
Oh, no.
Every time she does that, I think of Forrest Gump. Sorry,
Good
John.
gracious.
Continue.
But I like the first. I say the first. I don't know what you'd call it. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. But this was a little bit more serious, and I liked it a lot better than that one. But yeah, I mean, it was original. It wasn't just superhero, bad guy, good guy type thing. It had a lot to say, and it was really well written, and it had a distinct visual style to it, and I thought the CG with the motion capture was brilliant, and no complaints really. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I agree. It's interesting that you bring up superhero, supervillain kind of thing, because I did think about that during the film, that it's almost a superhero movie in a way, and it even spoiler alert, ends sort of with a rooftop fight.
Right? Yeah,
It's,
that was that. Yeah,
it is kind of superhero-y, but at the same time, that's kind of the character they've built Caesar into, and this leader of sorts, and I thought it was a very smart move to kind of, it would be obvious to have the villains of the movie be the humans, but they weren't really. I mean,
yeah,
you have a few jerkish humans, but the villain, the true antagonist here, is an ape, and I think that was a really smart move to show us the diversity in these apes, because up until now, the only real sort of bad guy, the series, if you're looking at the whole franchise, the only real bad guy has been Caesar himself in the old films. But
and Dr. Zaius was kind of a bad guy.
yeah, I guess so. But he's so likable. I
He
can't
is.
hate hate that guy.
Malfoy was a bad guy.
Yes, true.
But anyway, I digress.
But yeah, it's I just thought it was very smart and very, very fun, and I can't really say much that you didn't already cover.
Yeah, and one more thing too, I'd like to say is like the antagonist is an ape, but it's also in a way you understand where he's coming from too, because it's
Absolutely.
these opposing sides of how war should be tackled and really what a leader means. And so they had these opposing views of how this one issue should be taken, and it led to a whole bunch of, it was like the crack in that solid relationship that they had up to that point.
Right.
Well, what I found,
it was very interesting from a character standpoint.
Right, it wasn't black and white.
Right, it wasn't like Ironmonger and Iron Man or something. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Hey, those are deep characters,
You can kind of side with either of those characters.
He had a lot of depth. All of them. All the extras.
What I found most appealing about that particular the dynamic between Caesar and Koba was that Koba was essentially saying, like, you are not thinking about, like, Koba. I kept thinking the whole time, like, God, he's thinking of this as such, like, this primal response. But then I thought, well, he's an ape.
Yeah.
Like, and he almost resents Caesar for acting more like a human.
And Caesar's very different than the rest of the apes because he wasn't mistreated in any way, really.
That's the thing.
For most of his life.
So it really is about,
you
like,
can understand both points of view there.
Yeah, Koba,
Exactly.
everyone seemed to be the most abused and the most
Right.
tormented. So it kind of, it's, and you see similar dynamics like this in other movies where, like, the right-hand man is a little bit messed up. He comes from a bad place.
Yeah.
Maybe he's been in prison for a long time. So he's got this different mentality, and he's not quite as accepting as or empathetic as maybe the leader is. And, in his mind, the empathy is a weakness. And in his mind, like, why are we trying to barter with the humans anyway? Like, they're done. Their time is done. I don't see why you're trying to work with them so much because this isn't what's best for all of us, and you know it. And Caesar's trying to sort of please everyone, and it's really really interesting to watch.
Right.
To watch, a bunch of apes deal with, like, a moral conflict,
Sure.
Yeah.
Instead of, like,
and I gotta say,
we're out of food, so we need to find more food.
Sure.
It's like, should we
And
help them or not?
And I'm not a huge fan of Matt Reeves, really, but I thought he did a really great job with this movie. I love the opening scene with the bear
Yes.
attack. I thought that was a great setup, and all of it was well shot. It looked authentic. It looked like they filmed a lot of it out on location in a forest, and the cities that were overgrown and all that. I mean, it had this very distinct visual sense to it, so it really bolstered that as opposed to the first one, which is like more of like a suburban type movie, I guess. But
I kept expecting Will Smith
authentic.
in his car to drive through the streets that are overgrown, chasing deer.
Yeah.
That would have been a cool little, like, Easter egg.
Yeah. I'll tell you something too that this movie had that I enjoyed. As a fan of the franchise, there's a lot of cool nods to the originals that don't really, like, distract. Like, it's kind of cool, like, things you'll notice on the second time, or things you may notice on the first, but it's not really, a big deal.
They don't hit you over the head with them.
Right, exactly. And it's things, they're building their own mythos too. What with the symbol that Caesar uses from his window, from Rise.
Yeah.
They're sort of developing their own little things that, further down the line will probably be referenced again.
The Sacred Scrolls.
Yeah, the Sacred Scrolls are referenced. You've got humans in cages already.
Yeah.
It's
a lot of the characters' names too are references, like Maurice.
They are. Maurice, yeah.
Maurice Evans, and just little things like that. But like you said, they don't. It's very subtle, And if you didn't know it, you wouldn't pick up on it. It's not like
exactly
the Terminator saying "I'll be back" in the next Terminator movie or something.
Right. Now, Michael Giacchino did the score for this too, right?
Yeah, which is great, by the way. I forgot talking about that.
There's a moment, there's a few moments where the score is almost sort of like an homage to the original film. This, I don't know how to describe it, but like a piano kind of, I don't know, but it's almost Twilight Zone-y, like the original film was, and music wise, and I enjoyed the film quite a bit, and I've seen it a few times now, and it's definitely deserves number 4 on the list.
It was one of the few films on my list that I think I just saw once. I think I saw most of these films twice. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. And that's how much it stuck with me, though. So
yeah, and let me say this too. The film is such a great setup for a future sequel, but not in the way that you would think. Like a lot of movies, when they set up a sequel, they don't really finish the story they had started. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, we're going to just leave this cliffhanger here so that people will know we're doing a sequel. But everything here is finished. Like, you can watch this movie alone, and it's done. If they never make another movie, it's fine.
Sure.
But there's such a good setup. Like, you get a really good sense of where the thing is going to go. I mean, you've got people on their way, right, to face the apes. But it's just sort of like a small thing. It's not like a big burning question, but that's going to come into play in the next film. And so I feel like they set up really well for a sequel here. But the only thing that I'm a little concerned about going forward with this franchise is how long we're going to take to get to the actual Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're going to handle that 2,000-year time jump, but we shall see.
They want to keep Caesar around us.
Exactly.
He's the face of it now.
Right, exactly. So.
I think it'd be smart to wrap that up in the next movie or the one after that. You can't really
think it would too.
Keep having him in these situations where he almost dies and keep having him come back, because we all know, like, this ends when he dies and everyone dies and time passes. So,
Whoa. The Mockingjay.
What is that?
That's my phone going off.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think if they wrap up this sort of trilogy with almost like a biblical, like, reading of the sacred scrolls, like, and then came, this guy, and then he, go through the generations of ape kind, right? And then you end up with sort of a glimpse of the Planet of the Apes, like the true Planet of the Apes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you could kind of handle that 2,000-year jump like that. But then again, going off John's point, I just don't see them ditching Caesar so quick.
And really, he's probably, I'd say behind Dr. Zaius, he's probably the best character that the franchise has ever seen,
Oh, yeah.
He's not one-dimensional at all. He's very complex, and he's a great character. Andy Serkis is great, and you don't want to get rid of him.
Exactly.
Well, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with everything you guys just said. I don't really have much to add.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's nice to see movies that show you even a little bit of something you've never seen before, or characters that do things you haven't seen that archetype do. And for instance, like I said, we've seen this dynamic of, between groups of people or within hierarchies of leadership, but we haven't seen it with characters who come from this particular point of view. We haven't seen it from apes who have gained intelligence. That's a very unique point of view. So I like seeing a familiar story through the eyes of unfamiliar characters.
True.
So
and also too, another thing I really liked about this movie, and it's a lot of the movies on my list have this trait, but it's a lot of these days you go into a movie and you know exactly how it's going to end, or like Transformers, for instance, like you knew Optimus Prime is going to be the hero in the end, and he's going to live, and the Autobots are going to win, et cetera, et cetera. But like a lot of these movies on my list, I didn't know how they would end. I mean, it was like they were original in that sense, and that they weren't predictable. Just looking at my list here, a lot of these, and this was one of those. It's like when you go into the movie, you don't know how it's going to end. I mean, they eventually get to the Planet of the Apes, but the course that they get there through, it kept you on your toes. So I like that when you go into a movie these days and it's not predictable, and it's not. Even for a big movie like this, I think this has done about 600, 700 million worldwide, and that's rarity to have a film of this quality that's such a big thing, So.
Yeah, true.
What else did we all speak about? Is that the extent of the all three of us movies?
I think that was it.
John, did you have Lego Movie on your list?
I didn't, no.
Okay, all right.
Well,
you guys we can talk about that one, though, if you want.
I guess we'll talk about that one next.
Okay.
Dustin, where was that one with you?
I had it at number 2.
Oh, so did I.
Okay.
I feel left out now. I'd like to amend my list.
I'll just say real quick, I picked the Lego Movie. Like, I liked it pretty good. Like, I laughed a whole lot the first time I saw it. And then I watched it a second time through, and I sort of, I caught all the extra stuff that I was too busy laughing through in the first time. And I put this at number 2 because it is, I don't usually do this with comedies either. Like, comedies don't usually make my list because they're just not rewatchable. But I thought that this was the most imaginative film of the year. Yeah, it's a lot like Toy Story, where you have these characters and you it takes the adventures you might have taken these toys on and it brings them to life, and it references stuff that you thought, like I was watching with Mrs. Hooper, and the whole concept of a master builder is obviously the people who can just build everything out of the Lego pieces. You just build whatever you want. I'm much more like the main character, where I'm following the directions. Like, okay, well, I can't do it without a wheel though. I need this wheel. Like, it's a real interesting movie with hundreds of jokes and endless layers of humor and little in jokes and little voice cameos and just a bunch of little little things they didn't even need to try to put half the stuff in this movie that they did. Even the dynamic between the Green Lantern and Superman they put in there, like, it's not needed at all, but it's another little thing that really helps make the movie entertaining and make you feel like these characters have a history and it's this whole world. And how they essentially explained every like Lego themed land and why it's the way it is and blah blah blah. It's just it was really entertaining and super imaginative and a really, really great film.
Yeah, I agree. And one of the reasons this is on my list too is like John said, is unpredictable. And the reason that I say that is because I thought, like, when I saw this movie, first of all, I didn't want to see it because I thought, like, okay, it's a Lego movie, you know, how mind-blowing could that possibly be? But the fact is, like, it blew my expectations out of the water in everything. I mean, the characterization, just think about how quickly you understand Emmett. It's so quick and succinct. Yeah. All of these characterizations are just, I mean, yeah, maybe they're a little, you know, it's a comedy, so it's not super deep, but the fact is, I mean, it's so well characterized, and then you've got all of these great performances from people that I never thought could be that funny. Morgan Freeman and Liam Neeson.
Mm-hmm. Oh God,
making
Liam
me
Neeson
belly
is
laugh.
So good.
He's awesome. And I didn't even know, like, who thought Liam Neeson could play a funny, super funny character. But he does, and he sort of steals the show from Will Ferrell and Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
Like, how?
The prophecy.
And,
I made it up.
I made it up.
I made it up. Because I died.
But it's so smart and so funny, and not only is this a great movie for kids, in terms of, you know, showing them about creativity and whatnot, but it's also really fun for adults because it does remind you of your own childhood, and it does remind, whether you played with Legos or not. I didn't really play with Legos a whole lot. But
I didn't play with Legos once.
Yeah, but this is
What?
I know.
somehow my childhood.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then, of course, the live action stuff at the end, you know, I kind of figured, you know, about halfway through that there would be some live action stuff because you see some glimpses of it. But it's still, I'll still label that as unexpected. Like, going into the movie, I never thought there was going to be a live action Will Ferrell scene. And it's surprisingly touching and, you know, just really kind of emotional and has, again, something to say about the way that we approach childhood and the way that we sort of steal that from kids sometimes. And yeah, you know, just all about garnering creativity and learning how to have fun. And yeah. And then of course its use of licensed characters too is just hilarious because, you know, everything from Batman to, like you said, Green Lantern. I mean, they're all just so funny. And
the Ninja Turtles.
The Ninja Turtles, they're not at all the characters you thought. You know what I mean? Like, that Batman is not any interpretation of Batman. This is an entirely new Batman.
Yeah.
That Green Lantern, there's never been a Green Lantern obsessed with Superman before.
Yeah.
So this
Although
is
we all know that's the case.
Although we all know why not.
It's unsaid.
But you know what I mean? It's smart in that it's like subversive and challenges your knowledge of these characters already, and sort of in a childish way too. I mean, wouldn't a child come up with some sort of thing where Green Lantern is obsessed with Superman?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just so out of the blue, random, but also kind of cute, you know? So
Yeah.
I enjoyed the film a whole lot. I've seen it. This is the movie I've seen more than any of them on my list.
Oh.
I think I've seen this movie 4 or 5 times now.
The thing with this year is I thought that, I don't know if you guys are in agreement with me here, but I thought that this year was a lot better than last year
Yeah.
for
Yes.
movies.
Yes.
I would agree.
And so I really had trouble picking out stuff that wouldn't be in the top 10. And this was one of those movies that I really enjoyed, but it just didn't make that list. So
Yeah.
Sure.
I agree with all your points. I liked the movie a lot. I thought it was really fun, and I would certainly agree. It's extremely imaginative, but it just didn't quite make it for me. But I still thought it was great. So let's talk about Mr. Peabody and Sherman.
Okay.
This was one of the few animated movies that I saw this year at all. I didn't see Big Hero 6, so I can't compare it to that. But I'm not a big fan of DreamWorks movies. I think they're pretty, for the most part, they're pretty hollow, and I don't know. Their visual style is all over the place, I think. But with this movie, I'm a big fan of the Jay Ward original Rocky and Bullwinkle, Mr. Peabody and Sherman type stuff. So I was going into it hoping that they captured not only the feel of those cartoons, but the look and everything like that. And they've updated it, and it's a CG movie, obviously, but I feel like they retained a lot of the original type of humor and kind of the look of all that sort of stuff really well. And it had a really sweet story. But basically the story is, for those that don't know, I guess, Mr. Peabody is a dog, and he's a genius, and he's amazing at all these things, and he adopts a kid as his pet. And like the one thing that he's not great at is being a parent. And so the whole movie is about him learning, this really smart guy learning to be a good parent, because he's not really. And so it was a great movie in that sense. It was, like I said, it was a really sweet movie, and it retained a lot of that same type of punny humor and all that sort of stuff that the original cartoons had. So I was pleasantly surprised with this one. So,
see, that's really cool, because that's one that I didn't see. It's not that I'm against seeing it. I do want to see it. It's that I'm a fan of the original, and I grew up on that stuff, on Rocky and Bullwinkle and whatnot. And so for me, I didn't want to sit through something that, hip hop the source material. You know what I mean? Like sometimes DreamWorks has that effect where all of a sudden, characters are rapping or, acting very modern in this, source material that is sort of timeless. And that's what I was afraid of. And so for that reason, I didn't see it. But yeah, I mean, I'll definitely have to check it out now, because as long as it retains that original kind of spirit, I think that's what I was afraid it wouldn't do.
Right.
So how are the voices? I don't know who voices. Let's see. I know Ty Burrell does. Ty
Burrell does Peabody.
He does Peabody. Okay, that's right. But
when I remember when they originally announced this, they came out and said that Robert Downey Jr. was going to play Peabody, which doesn't really fit to me, because Robert Downey Jr. is a different personality than Peabody. And I think that they were just going for, we'll have him be Robert Downey Jr. as a dog. Yeah. And so I'm glad that whatever reason they didn't go with that. But I love Ty Burrell, and he puts on a voice for this that sounds pretty similar to the Peabody voice, and
awesome.
The inflections and all that are there. And I thought he did a really good job. And I think they just have a kid playing Sherman.
Okay.
He did fine. And you had this, Stanley Tucci played Da Vinci, and he put on a voice, and Stephen Colbert's in the movie, and Patrick Warburton plays like a Trojan warrior and stuff. So, I mean, it has the celebrity sprinkled through it, but you wouldn't really notice. You notice Patrick Warburton, obviously, but you wouldn't really notice any of the others. But yeah, I mean, like you said, I was very defensive about how they were going to tackle the sort of thing, and but no, I thought the voices were pretty similar and spot on, I thought.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, since
and
Mr. Hooper's...
and I'd also like to point out too that this was, I think, the first film that Rob Minkoff has done since The Lion King.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, other than a few smaller movies.
Mm-hmm.
He did the two Stuart Little movies. This is the first fully animated movie he's done since The Lion King.
Wow. I think since Mr. Hooper is still changing diapers,
Yes.
I'll go ahead and do one that is only on my list. And since we're on animated movies, I'll just go ahead and do Big Hero 6.
All right.
So
I
Big
must
Hero
point out
6
this is the first
yes.
Disney film I haven't seen in theaters, animated film, since like 07, 06.
Well, there is still time, John.
I know. I need to see it. I've heard it's great.
It's still in theaters. So Big Hero 6, I really didn't know what to expect with this one, but I enjoyed it a whole lot. I think it's got all the workings of like a superhero film.
What are you guys talking about?
But Big Hero 6 right now.
Okay, cool. I got a feeder lunch, so just keep talking. I did.
Oh.
Let me add. I wish I'd seen this too. This is another one I was looking forward to.
Okay.
Okay, goodbye.
This is both a superhero movie and a Disney movie, and I know they've deviated a lot from the source material from the Marvel stuff, but I think it all really works, and it has given the world Baymax, which is one of the cutest and like most endearing characters I've seen in a movie in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where like as soon like I'm in the movie and I'm like I've got to have a Baymax for my desk, like I've got to go buy one, and so anyway, long story short,
Disney's great at that.
I know, right? It's in the acting. It's in the animation performance.
Right.
You just love the guy, and so first of all, they didn't really rely on celebrity voices, which I think is refreshing. I mean, there's a few here and there, but they didn't rely on them, and I think that's really, really awesome to kind of be able to check out and just be in this world now. It's got some really, really funny moments that I didn't expect, like belly laughing, like really hilarious moments, similar to the Lego movie in that regard. It is cute and endearing, and yeah, like I said, it's just fun. It's one that I can rewatch over and over. I've seen it twice now. I'll probably buy it when it comes out on DVD. To me, there's some really awesome, really cool like set pieces in there, and this is the Disney film for boys that I think I've been waiting for. Yeah. I can't really remember the last, like we know this is going to be for boys kind of movie that Disney has put out.
Disney movie, yeah.
But I don't know, maybe Meet the Robinsons.
I was about to say about as far back as Meet the Robinsons.
Yeah, that was what 07?
07, I think. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a while, but this to me really fits in with the Disney franchise that they've built, and also still kind of is a Marvel movie. And I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a Stan Lee cameo, and
that's awesome.
Yeah, there's some really cool moments in here that I think are really fun. And one of the main characters is a superhero, geek, and so he. So here's basically the plot of the movie, right? The movie centers on a kid named Hero, and Hero is super smart. He's probably like 12 years old, but he's already in college. Mm-hmm. And he has an older brother also in college. And his older brother has created this healthcare companion called Baymax. And when things happen, tragedy strikes, as happens in superhero movies.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun,
the brother dies.
Villains arise. Hero and Baymax and these new friends that they've made kind of try to solve the mystery of who this villainous guy is. So it's almost like a Scooby-Doo kind of thing. But then also it's an action movie, and here's a villain, and these heroes now kind of create their own powers because, like I said, they're comic book junkies. So they're like, okay, we're also scientists, so we're going to create these costumes that sort of give us powers, and and then we'll become this big superhero team. And I think these characters all are unique, and they're all funny, and they all have their own distinct personalities. And even though I'd love to see this I could see this as a TV series very easily, and kind of get in the mindset of all of these characters over time. I think that this was a really good first jump into it. Now I don't know if there's going to be a sequel to this, but I think it'd be a really fun movie to have a sequel to. But Disney doesn't really do sequels very often,
unless you're Frozen.
Yeah, unless you're Frozen.
Wait, what the hell? They're doing a sequel to that?
Yeah.
But there's
Random
nothing.
Hooper.
There's nothing there.
I know, right? Where were you?
Oh, I'm listening. I'm just feeding.
Oh, okay. No, but they are doing a sequel.
Yeah.
Why
yeah.
though?
Oh, I don't know. Because money.
What do you mean? Why?
Well,
Because money.
Yeah, exactly.
that's like the altruistic.
That thing
kid
made
in
over
me.
it made over $1 billion.
I know, right?
Oh my god! But there's no substance at all.
I know. Where you go from here, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do.
Do you realize I'm gonna have to take my daughter to that shit?
Yes.
There are
And Frozen 3 and Frozen 4 and Frozen 5 too.
And Frozen Olaf's Holiday Adventure and
Stop it!
Yes.
Don't say that,
No,
John.
it's gonna happen.
Olaf
There's
goes to Disney World, the movie.
Yes, that will happen.
Stop it!
That will happen.
You see, she's crying. She doesn't want it to happen. Hashtag baby. What do you think of them doing a Frozen 2? That's what I thought. It's terrible. It's a tragedy. All right, continue.
But yeah, Big Hero 6. I had a good time with it. Has some really good 3D in it. If you choose to see it in that format, which I did the first time, didn't the second time. It's not necessary, in other words, but it's good. And just a fun, funny movie and quotable. Definitely quotable. I still quote it all the time. And so yeah, very, very. Oh, Wreck-It Ralph was a boys' movie, pretty much.
Yes, that's true. Everyone forgets about Wreck-It Ralph.
I know. I forgot about it until just now.
I'm going to wreck it.
Ralph.
Again, random Hooper.
Also quotable.
Very quotable. Has Sonic in it.
Yes.
But yeah, no, this is a very good, a very, very good movie, and I had a good time with it. And I think kids are really going to love it. It doesn't quite have the substance for adults, but, whatever.
Yeah.
It can't all be the Lego movie, I guess.
I think Disney is on the upswing.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Pixar has slumped, and they're taking over. They're picking up the slack for Pixar's slumps.
I would agree with that.
Pixar, not slumps, but they're having highs and lows. That's it.
Yes, they are, which is sad, but sort of inevitable.
Right. And also, too, is T.J. Miller in this movie?
He is.
I hate him.
Oh,
You don't like T.J. Miller? What's wrong with you, John?
Jesus.
that wasn't half bad. But
Come on,
He's in the room
everybody
with us.
loves T.J. Miller, man.
you remember in Cloverfield when he got ripped in
Jesus.
half?
Denver, yeah!
Oh my God, that is really good.
Hooper, you've been working on that.
No, it's really easy to do.
Hooper's a closeted T.J. Miller fan.
You just put
Yes.
a lot of water in your lungs and try to push it out with noise.
Yes, true.
Yeah. That's really that really is what it's like watching, especially John. You mentioned Transformers earlier. The
Right.
parts with him in that movie. It's just like, what are we doing, man? What are we doing? Ah!
Well, yeah. Well, while we're on the subject of that, I'd like to talk about Transformers for a minute. But
Yes.
So T.J. Miller's in that movie, and thank God he gets burned to a crisp 20 minutes into the movie. It was like, oh shit, they actually killed off the annoying sidekick in this movie. But we were talking about films that really had something to say and depth and all that, and this is not one of those films. But I enjoyed it immensely. I saw it in IMAX 3D, and and I don't normally see movies in 3D, but no, I mean this was just. I love going to see these movies, and I know a lot of people hate on these movies, but the thing did over. It's by far the biggest movie of the year, and I like these movies because I love seeing the visual effects, and I love the sounds, and I love the music, and all that sort of stuff. It's a very technical film for me, so I love seeing the animation and the visual effects and the explosions and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's not the highest movie on my list this year, but no other movie had Optimus Prime riding a giant dinosaur with a sword through Hong Kong. You know what I mean?
Yes.
No other movie had Stanley Tucci talking to a giant cigar-smoking robot with a beard voiced by John Goodman. So I go see those movies for that, and the plot for this one was nonsense, I thought, and even by Transformers standards, but I got what I wanted, and I loved it. I had a lot of fun, and yeah, it's great seeing like Optimus Prime and Bumblebee and all those sort of characters. So I love them.
Awesome. Yeah. What number was that on your list?
7.
7. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And this film, I thought it got rid of a lot of people don't like the goofy type of humor, and like I said, they killed T.J. Miller 20 minutes into the movie or whatever, and I feel like this one was a little bit more serious, and I feel like they've been listening to people since so Revenge of the Fallen and stuff. So I feel like it got rid of that, and I felt like the Autobots had a little bit more personality this time. Yeah. There was Bumblebee, Optimus, and then 3 other Autobots, and that was it. So they were focused a lot more on those characters, and like I said, John Goodman played one, and Ken Watanabe played another, and so you had these actors that had personality already coming to the table and voicing them, and so I thought they were a lot more fleshed out, and
yes,
yeah, and the human characters were more interesting. You had, like I said, you had Stanley Tucci, and you had Kelsey Grammer plays like this Dick Cheney-ish special ops guy, and so you had a little bit more to play with those guys. So I thought it improved upon a lot, but yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I'll tell you what I like is when you said that T.J. Miller died.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that
I like that too.
but it's the fact that they had the guts to kill a character. Right. Which I don't know that they've done that in any of the other movies. Now that I think about it,
I don't think they've ever killed a human character.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
Well, I think that's interesting. It shows
no one that mattered, I guess.
Danger,
like a background person. Or something.
Yeah. Well, T.J. Miller doesn't really matter all that.
Yeah, he gets burnt up.
Yeah.
I just imagine that like an episode of Looney Tunes where he gets burned and now he's just like cinder. And
that's literally what it is.
Like raises one finger and like opens his mouth and then just disintegrates.
Like a grenade goes off, and Mark Wahlberg and all the important people escape, and they turn around, and he's like this like charred mess, like frozen in place. I mean, they're like, oh my god.
That's awesome, actually.
That's
that's like Daffy Duck. He should have said, "You're despicable."
Do you prefer original recipe or extra crispy?
Oh, extra crispy.
But see, that's the kind of thing. It was like people had obviously voiced how much they didn't like those type of characters in the second and third movie, and even the first movie to an extent. But it was like to me, I pictured that they almost brought that character in just to be like, "Here we go, we're gonna kill him for you." You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah.
He didn't bother me in that movie because he was gone so quickly.
Gotcha.
But I don't like him.
Gotcha.
But yeah, those are my thoughts on that one.
Have we talked about Edge of Tomorrow, Dustin?
We have not.
Let's talk about Edge of Tomorrow.
Okay.
Although not too long.
Don't you mean Live, Die, Repeat?
Yeah. What the fuck?
I like Live, Die, Repeat better.
I don't.
I do too. I never saw the movie though.
I do not. I think Live, Die, Repeat. I was explaining to my wife what happened about that. I was like, that's like a tagline to me, and Edge of Tomorrow makes much more sense. And I explained the plot, and I had said, when you're constantly resetting the day, you are on the edge of tomorrow. It makes complete sense to me, and I don't understand why they rebranded it after its release.
They both make sense. I think Live, Die, Repeat gives you a clearer sense very quickly of what the movie's about.
I think
Edge of Tomorrow is such a whiffly-waffly title for me. It sounds like an old Twilight Zone episode.
But the thing...
It's like, it says nothing about the movie to me.
Well, I
didn't see it, so...
Well, she thought that Live, Die, Repeat was too comedic. It was like if you were to make like a Seth Rogen comedy about like a Groundhog Day esque Seth Rogen comedy or something, they'd be called Live, Die, Repeat. It's on YouTube. Just buy $5.99.
Yeah, no, I can see that. But
Red Bush.
Oh man. I can see that. I don't know. I'll keep calling it Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah. You notice if you see it on like the one I rented, it was like Live, Die, Repeat, and then in super small letters, Edge of Tomorrow.
I have the Blu-ray here, and it says Live, Die, Repeat / Edge of Tomorrow.
Oh, slash, yeah.
And, which is weird, but whatever.
Dustin, I listened to a couple of our episodes, recently, and so they included your reviews of Edge of Tomorrow and Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And I, of course, now I've seen them, and it was interesting to listen to you review them now that I knew what you were talking about.
Sure.
What is this on your list? How high is it?
This is 9 on my list.
Oh, okay. This is 3 for me.
Okay.
And I think, again, if I'd seen other movies, it probably gotten pushed down. But my quick thoughts on this movie is I, once again, am imaginative. Not like on a grand, I don't give it 5 gold stars for imagination, but I do give it, it's not exactly, again, like it's a unique story. It's not just, we got to battle and we got to win. It's like, all right, well, here's a different set of circumstances. And here's I had a good sense throughout the whole movie, not tension like you would have in a movie like Lone Survivor, but more like stakes, as in like it's gonna be really difficult to make this work, kind of thing, because here's how I lost. Emily Blunt explains like how she had the thing that he has and how she lost it. It's really easy to lose it, and I know you were not a fan of the alien design.
Yes.
In this film, and I imagine that helped push it down your list some. I can't disagree, but what I will say about the aliens is I appreciated that they seemed unstoppable.
Yes.
Like I appreciated that, like at least like in the Avengers, you could probably fist fight one of the Chitauri and beat it to death with a rock.
Sure.
They're humanoid. They're way too humanoid. They're too familiar. Now these ones are like these cephalopodish, crawly, fly things that have like a billion tentacles and shit, and they're fast. They're super fast, and you have to empty your clip into them to kill them. And I remember thinking like, there's no way they can beat these things. Like they're too good. And I appreciated them facing a foe that there's no way they could defeat through traditional combat.
Right.
So that being said, like I thought it was a pretty interesting film. I didn't know how it was going to end. And I liked Tom Cruise becoming the Tom Cruise character rather than starting as the Tom Cruise character, which I think you touched on in your original review of this film. So, I put it up to number 3 because I was not expecting it. I was expecting it got mixed reviews, so I didn't know what to think. I didn't know. But I think you were the one who told me this is one that you want to see. This is a pretty important movie to see because while it's not a completely original story, I believe it's based on a comic book or something, a manga.
Yes.
But in terms of cinematically, it's one of the more original movies that was released this year, and therefore it was important to see. And I agree. I thought it was really good, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, I don't remember a lot of what I covered in my original review of the film, but all I really say about it now is that it's a movie that I think is fun to watch, and its premise alone is so good. Here's Groundhog Day, but in war. You're reliving the same day of a battle over and over and over. So that gives you such a good idea of where the enemy's going to be, where you need to shoot. And by the end of this, you do see him start to kind of he's got it down to a science, right? Where each enemy is going to be because he's lived the day so many times. I think on its premise alone and on the fact that you get to see Tom Cruise become Tom Cruise, and the fact that Emily Blunt plays such a strong kind of super likable character. Plus Bill Paxton has a mustache. You just love the movie. It took me way too long to recognize Bill Paxton in this, by the way. I'm really ashamed by that. like he showed up and I'm like, who is this person? I'm like, what have you been in here? Who are you? And then a few scenes later, I'm like, oh my God, that's Bill Paxton. I'm an idiot. God's finger. Rip the asphalt off a 3-lane highway.
Bill Paxton.
Hi, I'm Bill Paxton. But it's a really fun movie.
Although I will say this, after a while, I was thinking we have to skip the J Squad stuff because if I hear Bill Paxton repeat this dialogue one more time, I'm going to put a bullet in my head.
I know, right? I know.
The battle is the great redeemer. I'm like, oh, shut up.
Oh, God. It's number 9 because it has a few things. I'm not 100% a fan of the very last part of it. Like the very last scene, essentially, I think is a little strange. And then, of course, the design of the aliens. I'm kind of sick of the overly complicated CGI heavy things like, look what we can do with CGI now, kind of villains. But it has such a really good atmosphere, and yeah, I still stand by it. I think it's one of the better films this year.
I was thinking about this while I was listening to that original review of yours. I was thinking, like, I didn't disagree because we have yet to hit a healthy middle ground with how we should do our extraterrestrial villains, because the mistake we make too often is just throw them in a computer, throw this wacky design in there, and put them in a computer. Well, then it's hard to sort of act with them and interact with them because they're just, this is obviously a computer. This is too, and not to say that an extraterrestrial life wouldn't be as complex as the mimics are in this movie, but like the mistake is also going the engineers and Prometheus. They're just people. They're just big, strong people. And that's way too much like us. And it's ridiculous to think, I like Guardians of the Galaxy, but most of the people are clearly people in costume. You want more. That's what I like about Doctor Who is like half the time. I mean, short of British actors in costume, there's like things that just look like shapes or other weird planktonish looking aliens. To suggest a big universe. So my hope is for them to strike a middle ground between. The imagination's not in the wrong place. The execution's in the wrong place. It's either too human or too computerized, and they need to get more into like a practical middle ground, which is kind of one of my hopes for the upcoming Star Wars movie. Is I'm hoping that they hit this practical middle ground with their aliens and stuff, not only with their effects as a whole, but with their characters too. Yeah, and it's going to take us a while to get there, but that's where it needs to go.
For me, when you look at alien design, like maybe the best designed alien of all time is probably the xenomorph from Alien. And I mean, it's humanistic and it's a person in a costume, but you never get the overt like sense that it's just a dude in there.
Even if you know it's a person in a costume, it still reads as creepy.
Right, exactly. So I love that design. And then you go the other way and do like the Thing, like the alien in that is awesome because he never really has a shape. You're not really sure what he is. And he could be anything really. And so yeah, aliens are tricky to do. When you design an alien, it's either going to look too human because that's what our frame of reference is. We're humans. We know that better than anything else. Or it's going to be like just garbage, like, oh, how about a tentacle here and then a beak and then like some wings. And it's just like, well, that's too much. Like now we're a bunch of different animals. Or it's just, a hot mess. And, yeah, I agree with you, Hooper. I think it'd be nice to strike a good middle ground and have something that reads as Alien, but in my view is also practical too, like the Xenomorph is, because I think that's easier to act alongside, and I think that it's more frightening that way when you see that it's real. So
yeah.
This concludes part 1 of episode 64, so just kind of roll over to part 2 to hear the rest of the discussion, beginning with Guardians of the Galaxy.